sweet friends, and welcome back to another steamy summer day here at Peaceful Bird Gardens. I'm in the back food forest this morning because I want to show you how I prune our Florida Prince peach tree. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, I have a lot of birds in our space, and the mockingbirds in particular are feeding their babies right now. We have quite a few of them, so there's just bird song and sounds and stuff like that all over the place this morning. So yeah, enjoy it. So our Florida Prince peach tree finished producing peaches, I want to say late May, and I really probably should have been out here earlier to prune, but full catastrophe of life happens, and so it is now late June and I am getting out here to prune, but it's all good. What we're doing for summer as far as pruning this tree for the summertime is to take down the excessive growth that happened since the wintertime when I pruned then, just to kind of control for size. That's why I prune in the summertime, to control for size, because as I mentioned, this is a very small space. I don't want large trees. Now luckily peach trees in general don't get super large, but at their full height, I don't want them getting to that. I want it to be able to be harvestable just from standing on the ground. I don't want to have to pull out a ladder or, you know, a step stool or something like that to be able to reach the fruit. So we're going to take down all of this aggressive growth, and then I'm going to maybe clean up some of the center, but I'm not going to completely open up the center until winter time, because we still have a good, you know, 2, 3, 4 months potentially of summertime, and that's a lot of sun beating down on the center of the tree. So I'm not going to completely clear out the center bowl of the tree right now, because I want that somewhat partially shaded through the intense heat of the summertime. But I am going to take down the vigorous growth that happened. And something different that I'm going to try to do this year. Last year when I gave it a pretty hard prune for size in the summertime, all of these water suckers and, you know, upright growth happened that I didn't maintain. I didn't really even take care of it in the wintertime. I just let it go. I'm not going to do that this year. I'm going to try to control that a bit better and keep the fruit in a space, you know, that's easier to harvest and not so susceptible to birds and insects and that sort of thing. Now, as far as our equipment today, all I'm using are just some standard, need to be cleaned, probably, loppers. I'm going to use some loppers, and I'm going to use just my, you know, just my 1-inch hand pruners. You don't really need anything special for pruning. The only thing I do recommend is that you sterilize your equipment before you start, so that you're not potentially spreading disease from one plant that you may have, you know, used your loppers or your pruners on previously to the plants you're currently pruning. So something like vinegar, that's, you know, or I use rubbing alcohol or something along those lines, just to make sure that you are not spreading bacteria and viruses and that between your trees. I may also need my handsaw today for some of the larger branches there, but hopefully not, so we'll just see how that goes. All right, so let's take a look at this tree, and hopefully this is a good vantage point so that you can see what I'm actually doing. So I'm going to take this down to about my height-ish area. I'm 5'11", so I'm going to take it down to probably about here, because, and that may seem drastic, but again, I don't want to have to get a ladder out to harvest the fruit. And don't be afraid to prune your trees. Don't be afraid to get to know your trees, so that you know what wood produces fruit, what wood is not going to be as productive for you, because these are beautiful trees, but we ultimately want to get peaches off of them. So, and last year we actually did get a wonderful harvest of peaches initially. Before the stuff at the top, believe it or not, actually did form tasty fruit. It wasn't super big, but the fruit flies got to a lot of them before I had a chance to. So I'm just going to go in here and select, let's see, it looks like a good spot. So yeah, just go for it, guys. Just go for it. Don't be scared. So anything growing up into the center really, but like I said, so this is just dead wood, so you want to make sure that you prune out anything dead as well, because dead wood, dead growth can introduce disease into your tree. So just make sure you're getting rid of any of the dead old wood. It's not going to produce for you anyway. So we don't want anything shooting straight up. We want everything going horizontally. We don't want anything shooting straight up into the center. Or cross branching. If you notice any cross branching, take care of it early, because cross branching can create rubbing, and we don't want that. And make sure you're making nice, clean flush cuts, and like what I just did. So that's also important. And I'm not worried about the structure really, or the shape right now. That I will take care of once the tree goes into dormancy in the winter time, in December. What are you gonna do with all this wood, Dani? What are you gonna do with all of these sticks and twigs and that you get from your peach tree? Well, as I mentioned in the past, I don't let anything leave our property. This all goes back to feed the garden. So I have a small little electric chipper that this weekend we will get out and chip all this up and just feed it right back to the garden. And luckily, we have had rain this week. We've had rain off and on, I want to say for the last week and a half or so. So that has been a very, very welcome thing. We've actually had a rainy season here early summer in Central Florida Zone 10A. And when you have as many plants, when you're a gardener and you have as many plants as we do, rain is very, very big on your priority list when it comes to, what's going on. You're constantly, at least I do, I'm constantly tracking the rain, and when it's coming, so I can be prepared. So I've got quite significant cross branching in here. And as I mentioned, I'm not gonna worry too much about the structure, but if you can take care of cross branching and that kind of thing early before the branch becomes significant, that's a good thing to do. Now, something important to keep in mind is that peaches fruit on 1-year-old wood. So after I prune this, whatever flushes down here in this area next year, that could very well be fruiting wood. So they always fruit on 1-year-old wood. All right, my sweet friends, I don't know if you can see this very clearly because this camera is not the greatest at close-ups, but there are these little protrusions, and these are the branch nodes, leaf nodes, these little dark, let's go over here, maybe in better light. You can see these little dark protrusions here. These are the nodes, so this is what you're selecting for. So, and you always want to cut in between here. You never want to, unless you have a reason to, you never want to cut into a growing point, because that's what this is. This is a growing point. This is a growing point. So you always want to cut in between those growing points. And this is what you were select for. So if I wanted a branch to come this way, I may cut just above to encourage that to branch in this direction. You would cut just above here. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what you're looking for when you're selecting. All right, so she's all finished. I did take a little more than I had intended to, but I think it was necessary, I really do. And the open is a little more, or the center is a little more open than I had planned. But again, I really do think that it was necessary to control all that vigor that she tends to put on. So this is her finished product. and I'll take you in and try to show you some of the structure of the tree. So as you can see, these are our main scaffold branches. That's a scaffold, scaffold, scaffold branches. So this is what we really want to maintain. And then as they go up a certain height, they branch again. Certain height, here they branch again. So that's how we maintain our Florida peach tree. And this is just one way to prune a peach tree. You can also do a central lead or a modified central lead when it comes to stone fruit, but I feel like this is just the best choice for us in this space. And in the fall, winter time, December, I will do another video when she's dormant to show you how I prune to prepare for fruit in the spring. All right, my sweet friends, so I figured while I'm out here, I might as well show you something else that I prune in the summertime. So this is our Southern Home grape vine, and we have it on this arched arbor here. We didn't have the space to do a post and wire system like the traditional, system that you see for grapevines. That's a lot of space to take up. So this allows us to do more vertical where you can walk underneath of it. And also this tends to share space with some other vines that I have at times. So this system just worked out really beautifully for us. And it makes for harvest, it makes for a really nice harvest, because as you walk underneath of the space, and I'll try and show a picture of this, the grapes just hang. They just hang right down. Sometimes they hit you in the head, but we've got quite a few bunches of green grapes that are just kind of hanging underneath. And Southern Home is, if I haven't, I think I mentioned it in previous videos, but Southern Home is a hybrid. So we cannot necessarily grow the traditional bunch table grapes like they do in California because of disease. I've tried growing traditional table grapes here, and they got disease and died. And after doing a lot of research, I came to find out that it's just not a good environment for growing table grapes, like the wine grapes that you think of Welch's grapes, those types of grapes that they grow in California and in other areas. We have a hybrid. It was hybridized with, it's a table grape that they crossed with a native muscadine. So it has a lot of the characteristics of a muscadine. There's the thick skin, there are seeds, it has kind of a resinous, I guess, musky aftertaste. But I grew up with muscadines. I really love muscadine grapes. And so I actually don't mind these at all. I love them, actually. I think they're delicious, just right out of hand. But again, that's something to keep in mind, that they do have seeds, and you really should like muscadines if you're going to grow this particular variety. But it's been really successful for us. This is the third year that we have had these in the ground, and I have, oh goodness, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants on the property, and all of them are just producing prolifically this year. So we'll see how much of that we actually get. Something else to keep in mind, they do tend to get invaded by aphids, especially the new growth. But for us, that we don't do anything about that. We just let it go. It doesn't harm the plant, and it actually feeds our ladybugs. So we don't spray or anything like that. I just let nature do nature. What I do find in the is that when the rains start, they take off with their growth. So we get a lot of this new growth, and it'll hang as we're trying to walk through. So all I do in the summertime is just prune off these little lanky kind of ends that aren't going to produce grapes anyway. And then in the winter time, I do more of a structural prune for fruiting, for the following year. And in the wintertime, I will do a video and show you how I do that. It's actually quite easy. It took me a year or so to figure it out on this particular system. Doing it on, there's a lot of information out there on how to do it on a post and wire system, but doing it on a walk-through trellis like this, it was interesting trying to find information on how to prune grapes. But I found it. I've mastered it. It's worked out beautifully for us this year. We've got loads of grapes, and so I will share that information with you in December. or January when I do my pruning. So for now though, all you really need to do if you have this kind of extra growth in the summertime is just prune it back. And if you notice there are grapes on that particular section of vine, you just prune back to, you know, just before the grapes. Don't cut your grapes off. You don't want to do that. So just take it, prune it off, and I just throw it back into the garden. And it's as simple as that. So again, you want to cut in between your nodes. So this is a leaf node, this is a leaf node. These are both growing points. There's a potential for, you know, another vine to come out of here, or a grape, you know, a grape cluster, or another leaf. So, but you want to make sure that you cut in between there and not at a growing point. So you just come in and cut it right in between. All right. And again, make sure you have sharp, sterilized pruner so that you're not transmitting potential disease between your plants. And yeah, it's as simple as that. So these I don't worry about too much because they're not smacking me in the face as I walk through. But again, you can just clip them, and you're not going to hurt your production really at all by just removing these few little wispy new growth ends. So yeah, that's how I take care of our grapes in the summertime. All right, my sweet friends, so one last thing I wanted to show you in the garden. This is our pineapple that is getting ready to come ripe. And I don't know, it's like a week or two. I usually will come down here and smell it to see if it's actually starting to smell ripe like a pineapple. That's when I like to harvest them. This, I believe, is a Florida special, but I'm not 100% sure because I have several varieties of pineapple that we're growing and I didn't mark them all. But once I do harvest this in a week or two, I'll do a whole video on how we grow pineapples, how we propagate them, and we'll do a little taste of this particular variety of pineapple. This is one of the larger varieties that I've grown. I've had other pineapples and they were not quite so robust. This one has been just growing beautifully, and they're very easy. They just take time. They just take patience. Now, how I protect them, I use window screen, and I use this for lots of my fruit. I use it for my passion fruit. I've used it for my peaches in the past. But you just take window screen. You can use fiberglass or aluminum. And you just get a roll of it. And I just make these little bags with the screen material. And what I'll do is I'll just fold over the sides. Make sure you wear gloves because this is pokey. The material is kind of pokey. I just cut it to size, you know, with some utility scissors, and then fold it over and staple it. Just use some regular old staples and staple it down the side. And then I use a little twine at the base as like a little drawstring. And then you just, you know, make it to size. And then all you do is just snuggle it over top of the pineapple. And then you pull your little drawstring at the bottom and you tie it. And voila. You have a protected pineapple. So like I said, I'll probably harvest this in like a week or two, but I'll just keep coming out and checking on it every day to make sure that this is working, number one, and you know, just for signs of when it's ready. So I hope you found that helpful. Thank you so much for joining me, my sweet friends. I hope you found this pruning video helpful. If you like this kind of content, if you're interested in growing food in an urban environment, providing native plants for wildlife, come on the journey with us, give us a like, hit subscribe, and hope to see you again on another Peaceful Bird Gardens. Have a lovely morning.